there we go. Now we can officially start. Thanks, guys. Sorry for your patience. I don't know what I've lost where, but somewhere along the line it got lost. So I'm just going to close my screen off so that it just, there we go. I'll put that back on. Great. Super. So welcome to tonight's session. It's going to be quite an interesting session because I need to actually press here. Let's see if it, there we go. All right. So again, our overall theme is called To Kill a Mocking Mind. And the reason why is because we're going to be looking at what it is all about our mind. We're going to look at personal growth, leadership development, self-awareness, boundaries, behavior modification, and health. So today's session is going to border around 3 of them, actually 4 of them, which is behavior modification, boundaries, self-awareness, and personal growth. So that's going to be pretty interesting to see how all of this works together. So again, the reason why it is wrapped around To Kill a Mocking Mind is because of the little voices that play in our mind all the time. And we all know what it is to have those little voices that play continuously in our minds and play stories that sometimes that shouldn't even be stories that we should be listening to. Okay, so let's look at tonight's session, which is very simple: getting rid of toxic people for good. Now, this is a 7-day challenge. So I would suggest, if sharing it with yourselves, sharing it with your friends, to hop onto this challenge and see, because we all have those people in our lives that do suck the living daylights out of us. Okay, so what we want to do is we want to learn how to do that. So we're going to go through a 1-hour overview this evening, questions and answers. Please feel free to type in a question as I go through this, or open up your mics and ask a question, because it's very interesting. I would highly recommend you have a journal to write in, because you're going to need to track where you're going with regards to this. And if you take last week's session, you'll see how the 2 tie so nicely into it. Then I'm going to have a small Telegram group just so that we can keep everybody on track for the 7 days. So if you're in at the end of this, just please let me know. Yes, you want to learn how to get rid of toxic people, and then we'll take you through the daily actions step by step of what we've got to do. Okay. At the end of next week's session, we'll discuss what we went through on that journey and how we can actually make sure that it works for us going forward. Okay. So there's various different types of people that will drain your energy. The first is people who avoid responsibility. Now, these are people that avoid taking responsibility for their own actions. And also, because they don't want to take responsibility, what they do is they actually have the blame game. So they go ahead and start blaming everybody else for their own mistakes, for everything around them. And this is where you'll see they definitely on that wheel of growth. Their wheel of growth is very small, because they're just spending time blaming other people, and hence having a negative reaction around everybody. And these kind of guys actually find it very difficult to have an attitude change. So what happens is that we become their victims. And the reason being is because they stay immature and they're unable to handle and face their own hardships. So what we do is we actually rescue them. Therefore, they drain our energy, and it becomes very destructive. The second one is actually self-destructing people. They tend to have lack of judgment. And then what they do is they tend to defend themselves. So they do a whole lot of justification, and in that justification, they want you to feel sorry for them. They want pity. They want you to help them. They want the attention, and they're not really interested in solving their own problem. They actually want you to do it for them. So self-destructive people have no interest in actually growing or changing whatsoever. So these kind of guys also very difficult, and they sap energy out of us because we're trying to grow, but they want us to be their victims as well. Then, of course, another toxic kind of person that drains energy out of people is people who criticize. In other words, all they want to do all the time is point out weaknesses of other people, and they're not interested. I just had an experience of a toxic person last week, and somebody who was, for the first time, did a presentation online, and their PowerPoint, I mean, really, mine are scrappy PowerPoints in comparison to the beautiful PowerPoint this person did. And yes, they have an Afrikaans background, but they spoke English very well. And The only criticism that I could have made from a constructive perspective is they gave too many products. So at the end, you didn't know really what you wanted to do. They should have just narrowed it down and made it very simple. Immediately they got off. Like immediately they got off that Zoom. The husband immediately said that was the worst he's ever heard you to do. That's absolutely terrible. Cannot believe that you actually even spoke like that. And basically criticized that person, drained all the positive energy out of them, and they became negative. And do you really think they want to do another presentation? The answer to that is no. So they are very toxic people. Then you've got your emotional vampires. Okay, they try and always, they consistently speak bad about other people. They want to control your opinions on various different topics. And when you're with them, your emotional fatigue totally drains you and you get so stressed. They just, you know when you're with an emotional vampire, because when you're actually sitting with them, they will point out all the flaws of other people, and everything is wrong. They judge others, they judge the company, they will judge everything around them, and they want you to just sit and listen. And they don't want you to fix, they just want to drain the energy out of you by dumping all their negativity onto you. The fifth type of person is people who are always jealous. Jealous people will be like that other gentleman who probably suffered from criticism and jealousy, because they will minimize your accomplishments, your strengths, in order for them to feel better. And you've got to avoid these kind of people, because they really, really, really aren't able to bring any form of happiness to the table, which is very, very sad. Then you've got people who are self-centered, and they're the people who just really think about themselves all the time. That's all they think about. There's nothing else that they think about except for themselves. And everything, the whole world will revolve around them all the time. Okay. So they're very self-centered people. So they simply, they're afraid of honesty, and they really just want you to pamper and blow them up and blow their own whistles up and things like that. So that's all they're interested. Okay, so those are your 6 types of people. Now what we've got to ask ourselves is the question, we're going to look at how now do we get on with various different types of people, and how can we protect ourselves? So today we're going to look at Jahari's window. Jahari's window was created in 1955 by Joseph Luft and Harry Ingham. Now, the Jahari window is a technique that aims to help people understand the emotional and physical relationship with self and with other people. It is used in both a self-help context, group settings, and it can be used in a corporate environment. And it can be used for increasing team performance as well. The window consists of 4 segments of human interaction. That's the open, the hidden, the blind, and the unknown. Now, the Jahari window model is used to enhance an individual's perception on others as well as themselves. This model is based on 2 ideas. Trust can be acquired by revealing information about you to others, and learning about yourself, from their feedback. Each person is presented by the Jahari model through 4 quadrants or window panes, as I've said. The main goal of Jahari's window is in actual fact to focus on feedback, good feedback coming back to you, shared discovery together, self-disclosure, and the self-discovery to help a relationship develop, understanding and growing together. So it's very important to understand the Jahari's window, because if you understand the Jahari's window, you will understand where your vacuum suckers are coming from, for want of a better word. Okay, so this is your Jahari's window. It's 4 quadrants. And very simply, we fit into all the quadrants, and there's just various different types of, so the quadrant will look different with different people all the time. So please don't think just because you feel this way with your partner, you'll feel a different way with your children. So different aspects of the Jahari's window is going to come into play as we go through this. Okay. So the very first quadrant is where you know yourself and what is known to others. In other words, it's an open space. And in that open space, we find that things you and everybody else knows about yourself. So it's stuff you've gladly said, I don't mind so-and-so knowing this about me. So now you can see the depth of knowledge that you would have with your husband, for example, would be different to your work colleagues. So you must understand, and it's very important when you're doing your journal, and later on when you're actually going to go through the steps of how you're going to get rid of those people that are your vacuum suckers, those toxic people in your life. Where do they sit on this window? Because if you know where they sit, you're going to be able to know how to actually manage them so that you can actually work them into a situation where they're no longer vacuum suckers in your own window. Okay. The second block is what is known by others but not known by yourself. So this is your blind spot. We all have blind spots, and these are the things that you are unaware of but others are aware of. So for example, what I hide, what I think is hidden, could be disclosed. So for example, one of the things is that could be is your bank statement, for example. The bank knows what's happening in your bank statement, but until you actually open it, you won't know what's in your bank statement. So that's the kind of like, it's unknown to you until such time as it gets revealed to you. Now, a lot of relationships, the husband keeps the bank and the financial side to themselves. The wife has no idea. So these are things that are totally unknown to them, but they're known to other people. So it's very important that what I hide and what I don't want others to know is stuff that needs to be processed, and say, what are they aware of about me that I'm not aware of about myself? So it's important for us to make sure that we understand how we can work through this blind spot. And do I want to, now this is where personal growth comes in. Do I want others to see this? So for example, you might see potential in someone else where they don't see potential in themselves. So this would be blind. It's unknown to them, but known to you. And you might be able to say, well, I can understand these are the certain limitations I can put on you, or the way I can actually grow you through this whole process. So this is all goes with character, mannerisms, a whole lot of tolerance, stress levels, all those kind of things where others can see, but you might not be aware of them yourselves. And it's important for us to say, hold on a second, I need to know more about myself in order for that blind square not to be the same size as the square that I know about myself. Okay. Then your third square is what is unknown to others, but known to you. In other words, it's hidden, okay? It's stuff that you don't want to share with others. It's about your feelings, your competency, whatever it might be. So these are the things that are known by you, but not known to others. And you might reveal some of this to some people and might decide you don't want to reveal a whole lot to other people. So this is how the window actually makes you realize where you can plot people on this window, and you might decide, hold on a second, if I want to deepen a relationship with someone, I need to expose a little bit more about myself. So when you're dating, it might be what's known to them, not known to them, and also what could be unknown to yourself but known to them. That's the attraction that they would have towards you. But then if you want to move into a deeper relationship, the hidden part needs to start being exposed, and some people don't like to expose that part of themselves. Then of course you've got your unknown to yourself and unknown to others, which is totally unknown. Okay. And this is the things that are unknown by you and unknown by everybody else. Okay, so it's those dark areas in your life, this where you might have revelation, or if you had to go for counseling, you might have buried something deep down inside your subconscious, and you might not want to actually be working with it. So this is very important for us to understand that. In summary, when you look at this all, it's very important to realize that we gain knowledge about ourselves largely through interaction with other people. We don't gain knowledge about ourselves by just reading a book. All right. It's when we interact with others, and more importantly, when we understand and we study their responses towards us, or reactions towards us. This is where we start opening up and learning a little bit more about ourselves. So for example, if this was like a husband-wife relationship, you would see there the red dotted lines is increased quadrant 1, which is known by them, known by others. So in other words, a lot of the hidden areas, you've now given self-disclosure, you've been vulnerable, you've opened yourself to them. Also, you'll see you've gone into the blind area, which means that you've received feedback from them, so you know a little bit more about yourself. And then, of course, in the unknown area, this is the self-discovery as you might go on a journey of, through others' observations and things like that. So it's very important for us to say we can't be balanced in all 4 quadrants if we want to build deep relationships. Those relationships, we're vulnerable with more people than we are with other people. Now, your toxic person wants you to completely spend time in this big open area, but they only want to spend everything in quadrant 4 towards you. And this is what takes all the vacuum out of you and I. So that's your Jahari's window. Very interesting. I would suggest this is your toxic person. There we go. All right. You can see what's known by themselves and known by others is very small. Okay. And the unknown area, quadrant 4, stays large because they don't want to self-discover, but they just want you to feed them in that little square. And hence, this is where the imbalance comes in. And this is where the total sucking of oxygen comes out of you when you actually look at the Jahari's window. Very fascinating. And it is important for us to realize, plot people that you want to build a relationship with. Where are they and how much is hidden, how much is open? And this will be able to, you can start asking yourself those questions and start growing in that area from there. So I'm just going to stop share quickly. Okay, so very clear with the Jahari's window. Anybody else want to add anything, say anything? Had any experience with the Jahari's window before?
Yeah, Michelle, you know, your first slide with the 6 different kind of people.
Yeah.
That was a scary slide, no?
Very, because we know at least one person in each of those 6.
We are in all of them at some stage.
Yep. Yep.
And I think probably the solution starts by recognizing that.
100%.
Because I can see myself in each one of them sometimes.
Absolutely, 100%. And when you go into, now this is what's so nice about the Jahari's window, is that we start opening up that self-discovery, and we start saying, hold on a second, this is a realization about myself, so no longer hidden to me, now it's a realization. Do I want to continue being that kind of person, or who am I that kind of person with? So I find that I step into the people who are always jealous with my sisters. I step into that without even realizing I step into it. And it gets me into a lot of trouble. And I should not be jealous of my sisters. And then they mirror the same thing back to me. And we have this toxic relationship of jealousy, which has been growing since we were siblings. Well, little guys, not siblings, we still are siblings. But yeah, we continuously go there. And it's been such a big thing for us to realize that we need to avoid that and no longer spend time in that. And why am I jealous, and process this? And that's what I'm going to show you now, how we can actually, first of all, look at ourselves, and then secondly, how do I process so that I can deal with toxic people? So, I have a family member that is like, self-destructive on steroids. Okay, self-destructive on steroids, and also cares too much about themselves, loves to criticize, is an emotional vampire. Okay, so maybe she's jealous. I've never really processed that, and she doesn't really avoid responsibility. But put yourself in that room. We had to learn that we could not be with her longer than 20 minutes. For 20 minutes, she could be this lovely person. So if we would go down and go and visit them, go and have a cup of coffee with them, we just, if we were 25 minutes, there was an argument like you cannot believe. She was and she would go into all 4 of these things like, it was like the Tasmanian devil got hold of her, seriously. And then we learned. And so we put a strategy in place that in order for us to have a healthy relationship, one of us always said when we arrived there, I'm so sorry. And I always took the blame. I've set up another meeting. You know me, I'm always busy. I'm always running with another meeting. We can just have a quick cup of coffee. We can't stay any longer, but you know what we're gonna do is, like, really, it's 15-20 minutes, and we have to be out of here, otherwise I'm going to be late for my next meeting, and I'm so sorry. And that's what we would do. 10 minutes in, I would start standing up, taking the coffee cups to the kitchen or whatever it is, and Anthony would start wrapping up. We'd get our coats at 15 minutes past. At 20 past, we were just on the way to 20 past, we were walking to the car. We'd get in the car. We'd make sure she opened the gate by 20 past. We were reversing out the driveway by 20, because we knew there was this little, like, 21-minute pause, and we knew the devil would come out. And I tell you what, that's how we managed it. And we've now got a beautiful relationship, because we've been able to take that, we've been able to make sure that toxicness doesn't affect us anymore. And what are the boundaries that I need to set in place in order to have that? And that's what we're going to talk about now.
But isn't that a coping mechanism?
100%, definitely, like on steroids. On steroids coping mechanism. I tell you what, we really had to. And it was when I learned when Anthony and I both did what I'm going to share with you now, and that is, how do we set boundaries that are healthy boundaries, and all the rest of it. And boundary violators do not like this at all. What I'm going to share with you now, your toxic people are not going to like at all. Okay, so there it is. Dealing with toxic people, the first thing we need to do is we need to learn how to set a boundary. Okay, yeah, we're still recording, and you can still see the screen. It hasn't disappeared on you.
Yep, we can see it.
Great, awesome, thanks, Vilma. Okay, so we're going to learn to set boundaries, but when you set boundaries, there's 3 steps in setting in a boundary, and that's to create, state, and maintain. So we'll go into each of those in a lot more detail. Okay, so firstly, what are healthy boundaries? Healthy boundaries, we need to understand, is that they're important for our healing and also for healthy relationships. And healthy relationships have healthy boundaries. There's 5 different boundary types. Okay, first of all, you have an emotional boundary. With your emotional boundary, that's all the stuff that you've learned from the past. That's your family, your friends, your teachers, stuff that you've been attached to. And these are where the triggers come from. And so a toxic person will trigger one of these. And if they can trigger one of these things, what's going to happen is you are going to be sapped with energy, because you're not going to be able to get into a situation of, how do I get my emotions stepped up strong again? Okay. And so this is where you'll find that people dismiss what you say. They don't like what you've got to say. They don't listen to what you've got to say. They'll reject any kind of comment that comes from you. They will reject you and sulk and go into this woe is me scenario, and they're playing this emotional roulette or emotional manipulation with you, assuming. They will assume. These are the kind of guys that the emotional boundary that we need to set and is when a person finishes your sentence, because they assume they know what you're going to say. Do you know, this was probably one of the biggest things that Anthony and I had to deal with. Anthony always assumed he knew what I was going to finish. Okay. And he would finish my sentences for me. So then I would, and I had to learn. So when we started learning to set boundaries so that we could have a healthy relationship, this was one of the things that he rejected big time. Okay. Justifying, people will justify why they disagree with you and why your point of view is wrong. So they're always undermining you as you go through things. What they love to do is they love to dump their emotions on you as well. Okay, so they will come and dump their emotions on you. And if you try and correct or say something, they get very upset with regards to that. Inappropriate gestures or inappropriate topics. They could, you could be talking about something and then they start changing it to another topic, and it's totally inappropriate for the moment. It could be from a sexual perspective. They could, emotional boundaries are people who sometimes don't actually filter what they've got to say before they actually say it. Okay, so that's the one way, is the emotional boundaries. Then you've got material boundaries that we need to put in place. Material boundaries are things like, for example, your possessions. So what can be shared and how that should be treated. So for example, you might not mind your sister driving your car. Okay. Now, she phones, she says, oh, listen here, I just need to go to the shops. You know, your car's sitting here. So you say, yeah, sure, no, let hubby come past you, you can drop it off. Then what they do is when they drop it off, they don't put petrol back in the car. They've left all their rubbish in the car. They don't keep the car clean, but they've really returned it back in a bad way. Now, a person who accepts that kind of thing just says, that's the way my sister is. No, this is a toxic person abusing your possessions. And we need to understand, how do I deal with that and what should I? So you have a right, it's your car, to actually say to them, this is how I expect my car to be returned. They're going to get, oh, please, man, whatever. No, it's not, oh, please, whatever. If you don't do that, you won't borrow the car again. That is, at that point in time, this is when they get so upset with you. And this is where their toxicness will come out. Okay. Another boundary type that we need to learn to place is time and energy. This is, I think, one in the workplace that most of us suffer from, because you might have planned your day this way. The boss comes and changes your whole day. Okay. And this can sap a lot of energy out of a lot of people. Tardiness, like being late. Lateness is really something we need to learn to put a boundary around, because if we don't, a person, your energy you spend up. For me, lateness is the number one cardinal sin I cannot handle. That's why I start my Zooms on time. I know there's a few people that said, listen, we've just got to finish another Zoom. Please, no, I can't wait for you, because then everybody's waiting. And I just think that that's a genuine excuse. They're not being late. But you go to a restaurant and I know one guy, because I'm a female and he's a very, very, very dominant male, he will always keep me waiting. And eventually I just would get up and I would leave. I'd pay the bill and leave. And then he'd come half an hour later and say, why aren't you here? No, I'm terribly sorry. If you want to meet with me, you arrive on time. And he wouldn't. So I handed him over to someone else, and that person suffered the same thing, put another boundary in place with him. And then he listened, because it was a male telling him what he could do. Okay, there we go. No shows, people not pitching. All right, that wastes a lot of your own personal time and interest. Contacted when requested not to. So you might say to someone, please don't contact me at between 9 o'clock and whatever. And somebody will phone you between that time. That isn't a boundary violation of what you've said. And you won't understand. You might take the phone call, but your emotions that get driven up by this toxic person that doesn't respect your boundary is what's going to start. And then you can't go to bed and you think that's a damn cheek and all the rest of it. And then what you do is you have a tendency to go and vent with the person that you're closest to. I will go and vent with Ant, and then the poor guy sits there. Now, what I've gone and done is I've just gone and taken my problems and dumped them onto him, which is wrong. Okay, so now I became the toxic person. Favors, that's when people ask you for favors and you've said no, and they don't respect that. They will keep asking you and they keep pushing you. It's like a child with a biscuit. Okay. Free labor. Okay, this is something that's interesting, because let's say, for example, this is a big one with my husband. Hey, we learn a lot of things about each other. Anthony loves to help people, and he does things for free. The moment he has to charge for something, what happens is he starts feeling guilty that he doesn't want to charge them, but he'll spend, maybe some people can phone and spend an hour asking for coaching questions. He's got a fee for coaching, but he feels guilty to charge that person. And I keep saying to him, if you reward that behavior, resentment's going to set in, and then that person becomes toxic. And I tell you, there's one gentleman, okay, that when I see his phone number, I stand in front of my husband and I say to him, you set a boundary on this guy. Once you've told him not to contact you after 8 o'clock at night. He always does. 2, he's going to keep you on the phone. I said, and if you don't charge him, I'm putting the phone down. I've had to be that ruthless with him, and he's had to be that ruthless with this person, because it's unfair. It's free labor, and people take advantage of you. And that's a toxic person will do that, and they don't like it when you set a boundary on them. Okay. And another boundary is mentalness. This is your thoughts, your values, your opinions, your beliefs. When people disagree with you and they make you feel as though your thoughts, your values, your opinions, and your beliefs do not mean anything. And a toxic person will challenge these all the time. They will exhaust you. I have somebody that mentally exhausts me. I've decided to not even spend, I will not spend time with this individual, because it doesn't matter what I say, he knows better. You know, those people that know better all the time, and they challenge everything and out of you, and it's just not worth being around them. Then, of course, there's physical, that's your proximity. For example, you might like to have, you know, a meter space between you. So the social distancing is working very well for you right now. But the moment we get in and people start these standing in a queue and then they stand on top of you, and this could become where you need to set boundaries. And sometimes it's very difficult to do that. And a boundary violator or a toxic person wouldn't worry about that. So sometimes we need to understand what is the situation behind it. So we can't always blame those people as toxic people. Touch, then of course, public PDA, your public display of attention, unwanted sexual or physical comments. We've got a friend that just cannot help himself, and every single thing's got a sexual innuendo, that one to it. And eventually I've just got to say, look, I'm sorry, I can't be in your presence. And then they say, why does Michelle want to be there? And say, well, you can't prevent yourself from always passing some comment, and it's unnecessary. Okay, so dealing with toxic people, this is where you're going to have to start identifying how and where are all these, between all these different types of places that I've been through now is, and I will send you guys as PowerPoints if you haven't been taking screenshots, or I know I've gone through it quite quickly to make notes, but it is important for you, because you're going to have to process through this. So I will send you the PowerPoint if you're keen to go on the journey, so that you can actually see, and of course you will get the recording as well. Okay. All right, so now we've got to take all of that information. We now need to set our boundaries with these toxic people. So the first thing we need to do is we need to create. What I mean by create is very simple. What I suggest you do, and this is a terrifying task, and I'm going to stop share on this one point, because this is a very scary task if you actually think about it. What I suggest you do is take your diary, and I have done this, okay, and what I want you to do is I want you to list every single relationship that you have. All right, so now you start with yourself, okay, so you put your name down. Michelle, this is my list of relationships. Michelle is the first person, because I've got a relationship with myself, and if I'm unhappy in myself, I am responsible to find out what it is that's making me unhappy, not Anthony, not anybody else. Okay, yes, sometimes I will phone Tessa and say, Tessa, we've got to sit down and have a glass of wine, because I don't want to process. Okay, but the thing is, I know I've got to go and process what it is that I've got to do. So it's so important for us to realize that that's the relationship. Then you're going to put, then I would put Anthony's name. Then I've got to put my children's name. So I've got to put my son's name. I've got to put my daughter-in-law's name. I've got to put each and every single one of my grandchildren's names. I then have to put Tessa's name, because she's my friend. I've got to put Vilma's name down, because she's a work colleague. I've got to put, there's a whole list of people's names that you interact with. And if you're not sure what they are, for this next week, this is your 7-day challenge, what you're going to be doing is listing every single person that you come into contact with. Your list can reach up to 100 without you even realizing it. Okay, so first of all, I look at it, I'm a mother, I'm a grandmother, so I've got to put all those names down. I'm a friend, so I've got to put all those names down. I have a business, so all my leaders, I've got to put those names down. I am a sister, I've got to put all my sisters' names down. I'm a sister-in-law, so I've got to put all the in-laws' names down. I'm an auntie, I've got to put all those children's names down. Guys, you have to go and do this exercise. And so this is your first exercise that you are going to do this week. This is why I said you need a journal. You need to go around. So you're going to list their name. You're going to list their relationship to you. And then what you're going to work out is you're going to work out on the Jahari's window, how much does this person know about you? Okay, just put on a scale of 1 to 5, yes, they know a lot about me. No, they don't. 1 is no, 5 is yes, they know a lot. Okay, or turn it around, whatever your list is working for you. Then what you need to do is you need to say, okay, is this person, when I interact with this individual, do they exhaust me? Oh, don't forget, I'm an in-law as well. So I've got to list all Anthony's siblings. Okay, I've got also all their partners as well. I've got to list their children. All right. and ask yourself the question, when I spend time with this person, am I energized or do they sap the energy out of me? You need to know who these people are around you. And then you've got to process. So this is a big task. And this is why I say, you really, if you seriously want to do this, I did this exercise. I was horrified at the amount of relationships that I am involved in that I don't do anything about. And it was quite a scary thing for me. So do yourself a favor, do this exercise. This is your first thing when you are creating your list, okay, of everybody you know. Quite a scary thought, isn't it? Okay, so there we are, sharing screen again. Okay, then you're now going to look at that list and you're going to choose one of them. Okay, so once you've gone through it, just choose one person that is toxic that you would like to work through and decide that's worth the effort of going through for the next 7 days. So out of that list, you've identified who it is that is the toxic person you need to deal with this week. So we're only going to deal with one of them. Through each day, there's a few things that we're going to go into step by step. I'm going to share some of them now, and then we're going to reiterate them and ask you to participate in this with this one person. Now, if it's a really, really bad toxic person, I'm going to suggest you stay away from them and maybe try somebody who you'd like to test this process with first, okay? Because some people are more toxic than others. What you're going to do is you're going to write down why it's important for you to deal with this person, okay? Why is it important for you to deal with this person? What shifts and changes do you want out of this exercise? So what, if everything had to be perfect, what would you like the relationship to look like? You don't want them in your sight, you don't want them near me, or you would like to have a healthy working relationship with them. Okay, it all depends on who the person is. And as we go through, once you've decided who they are, you don't have to give us the name. You can just say, this is the person, this is why they're toxic, and this is the shifts and changes I'd like to do. So help me now. What changes must I make? All right. So what changes must I make in order to move this relationship either out of my sight altogether, so I avoid them, or like I do with the one person, although it is somebody that I need to be close with me, but I'm very civil, but then I move out of their way and I go and do something else. Okay, setting the boundaries with this person is going to be hard. So you need to know why, because we need to stick to the reason why we need to deal with this relationship. Okay. All right, so that is everything that we need to do with regards to create. So it's very important. If you want to start the exercise, I will definitely make sure that I send this screenshot to you, because this is how we are going to deal with toxic people. All right, I'm very sorry if the toxic person is your partner, okay? But we can still now move that toxicness, all right? Like that wife whose husband always criticizes her. If she did this exercise, I would show her how she can actually set healthy boundaries for him so that he doesn't continue to do that. All right, but she's not interested in that, so that's her problem. Okay, state. Now, be honest in the part that you're playing to enable this problem. So you need to make a statement and you need to say, when this person comes to me, so I know why I want to get rid of this, but when they approach me and I allow them to do X, Y, and Z, I'm actually enabling them to be a toxic person. All right. So am I accepting? And this goes for me too. Okay. So if you want a personal growth, let's say, for example, me with jealousy. Okay. I had to be honest in the part that I was playing. I was just jealous of everything that they did. And I didn't want to go, and I just thought life was unfair until I had to realize that life, yes, guess what? Life is unfair, Michelle. Now get over yourself and see the fruit, the wood for the trees. All right. Feel the emotions that you're going to experience when you need to state to them what you're accepting going forward. Okay, so for example, you might say that your sister, let's say, phones you all the time. Okay, she phones you and dumps her, every problem she's got, she dumps on you. So when you're off that phone, you're totally exhausted. There's nothing you can do to help her, and she doesn't want to help herself. Okay, or he doesn't want to help himself, your brother, whatever. Now, you've got to put in place and say, not going to accept your phone calls anymore if you're actually going to come and dump on me, because I can't handle it right now. I'm overloaded. I'm very busy at work, and I can't be going through this anymore. So I'm going to ask you, please, if you're going to phone just to find out how we're doing, but please, I can't accept you dumping on me anymore. The moment you say that, you are going to feel guilty, and they are going to make you feel guilty. You need to deal with that guilt, because that means this entire relationship is built on guilt, and it's not a healthy relationship. So these are the things that what trigger you. You need to identify them so that when they happen, your why has to be strong enough. And the reason why is either to get them out of your sight, or you want a healthy relationship. Okay. When you communicate this, you've got to communicate. Every time you communicate a boundary, has to be in a nice, calm way. Okay. Boundary violators, everybody who you've enabled to be a toxic person to this point in time, is going to resist you, because they're used to you being there for them. Now you're going to be the bad guy. Okay. And they're not going to like it. But if you can get through this, and that's why I say, well, I'm going to stick with you for 7 days. Choose somebody you're actually going to set a boundary with. Set somebody that you're actually going to be able to help them to no longer be toxic with you. All right. And I'm going to help you this 7 days to walk through. Trust me, I've done this many, 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 many times, including with myself and including with my husband. I did the boundaries course before my husband did, and I started setting boundaries on him, and he did not like it. That I can tell you. But today we have a very healthy relationship. So do not buy into their manipulation, because they're going to place emotional manipulation on you. That's why I went through the 5 things in the very beginning, which we spoke about where the toxic people are. They're going to pull out all their stops and guns, because they do not want you to no longer enable them to be toxic. All right. Remember that this is their feelings and not yours, and you're not responsible for their reaction. You're not responsible for their feelings. You're responsible to how you are going to protect yourself from this toxic person, and how you're going to move forward from there, and what is your reason why you want to do it with this individual. Okay. And that's why, as Wilma said, we had that coping mechanism with this other person, because the relationship was a very precious relationship, and something that's going to be in the family for a very long time. So it was our responsibility, and we took it upon ourselves to slowly start set boundaries, although we could not verbally communicate this to the person, because they really would have gone out of hand. And this is what we need to know, is how we communicate is important. So sometimes you might not verbally say it to them, but your actions are going to speak louder than your words. Okay. And sometimes they won't even know that it's even happening to them. And that's the art of dealing with toxic people. So we've stated what it is. Now we need to learn to maintain. So now you need to do what you said you're going to do. All right. So whatever your action plan is, and I'm here for you for the next 7 days to take you through those action plans. If you're willing to put it on the group, nobody needs to know who the person is or what it is. It's just going to help all of us deal with toxic people. I would really appreciate it. But if you do need a personal chat, we can do that as well, because we need to stick to our state plan, what we've stated we're going to do. Okay. This is critically important, because they're not going to like this process. Okay. So you need to understand they're not going to like it. Okay. You may feel you want to go back to the old ways because it's so much simpler. That would be a choice. All right. But then you must know you are the enabler. Okay. So they might be toxic, but you're enabling them to be toxic if you go back to the old ways. And that you need to live with once you've made that decision. Okay. If you do give them the upper hand, you're going to reward their bad behavior. This is going to take time. So what's going to happen is you're going to set things in motion over the next 7 days, but you need to keep this going. All right. And it's going to take time. Who knows? It depends on the person as to how long it could take. Okay. All I'm going to say is weather through the difficulty. They may name call you. All right. Process this by going back to what you wrote in the create section. Okay, so they're going to call you names. They're going to tell you you're selfish. They're going to tell you, how can you do this? They because remember, they don't like you're now suddenly ripping their lifeline away that you gave to them for whatever reason it is. It could be in the workplace. I mean, one of the toxic relationships that I had in the workplace when I was in the corporate environment is the fact that people would come and talk about other people. And my standard thing would be, so let's say, for example, Joe would come and start talking to me about Vilma. I would say, well, Joe, thank you very much for this information, but tell me something. Why are you sharing this with me? And then they would look at me. And that was me immediately putting a boundary bang smack in front of them, because I know that toxicness, they wanted to now take their toxic venom that they had for that person, dump it on me, so that I would see Joe in a different light. Okay. And that's unacceptable. So I would ask, so what's your purpose? And then I would say, I'm going to give you two options, because they would look at you and they wouldn't be able to answer me. And I would say, well, one, it's going to be because you want to talk about that person, or two, you want to share something with me so that you and I can go sit with them and help them through their problem. Which one is it? And people would walk away from me. I had no more toxic people dumping on me, because they knew, don't bring your SHIT to me. I'm not interested. But I had to get myself to that place, because otherwise I started getting into this gossip stage and all the rest of it, and it was terrible. Okay, so you need to understand the dynamics of a toxic person. So if they are going to call you names, ask yourself, is this true about me? All right, if it is, deal with it. Relationship dynamics can change over time and can be for the benefit of both of you, because you both play a part in the toxic behavior reoccurring. Please understand that it is probably the most important thing that we can actually go through. So you need to learn to know one when you see one. All right. You may feel yourself experiencing muscle tension, loss of energy, headaches, irritability, sadness, confusion, or negativity. You may have an energy vampire in your life if you're feeling any one of those things. So that's something when you're going to put, when you're doing your list now, you're going to say, how does this person make me feel when I walk away from them? All right. Do I have an energy loss? Do I have sickness? Do I feel nauseous? Do I feel sad for them? Whatever it is. Okay. Then you know they're a toxic person. Now, this is where we've learned, now we're going to start limiting our contact with them. Okay, for those of us, for those who are intrusive or overly dramatic and end up consuming a lot of your time with their tales of woe or displays of theatrics, you should start off conversations with something like, I only have a few minutes before, and this is the one that Anthony and I use. Hey, look, I'm so sorry. We only have 20 minutes, otherwise we've got to leave. Okay. But when that time's up, you need to disengage. So this is how we limited our contact with the toxic person that I was speaking to you about. And then also don't get pulled in. Those are, no matter how much you might think or hope that you're able to fix their problems, trust me, you can't. Okay. Chronically negative people will either resist your interventions or create new crises in order for you to live their lives so that you can go and fix it. Okay. The truth is that cases of personality disordered people, even the best therapists, have difficulty in affecting their change. Okay. In short, their problems are beyond your ability to fix. Okay. So your best strategy to protect yourself is by setting clear and firm limits, your boundaries that I've just gone through. For example, for those who are very needy or insecure or consistently wanting your guidance or resisting offering solutions, instead say something like, I'm confident that you'll be able to find the right answer on your own. Okay. Or you don't have to be rude. You can just move on from there. Be firm, be kind, but be empathetic. And that's how we're going to do it. So 7-day challenge. All right, I'm going to stop share right there. Oh, sorry, stop share right there. 7-day challenge. For those of you who are keen, all right, on the 7-day challenge, what I suggest is just private message me and say, I'm in. Okay, just send me a text and say, okay, I'm in. I'll put you onto the Telegram group. Then please start with your list. Okay, you need to start, because the sooner you identify that a toxic person that you would like to work through, then I can help you through that process. Okay, identify them, and then through the week, I'm going to give you things each day to do towards that toxic person, so that in 7 days, I'm telling you now, if you do what I ask you to do in 7 days, you will start seeing things changing. Everybody's toxic person is going to take different things. So if we can share it on the group, please, we don't need to know who it is. We don't need to know what the relationship is. All we're going to find out is, how often you are in contact with that person, and how regularly are you, and what are they doing to you that is causing either that tension or whatever it might be. Okay, whatever it is. Okay, so interesting, and it is hard work. So this is why I say it is a challenge, and it is something you need to decide, do I want to or don't I want to? But the biggest surprise you're going to get tonight or tomorrow is when you sit down and remember, who am I and what am I? I'm a mother, list. Okay, I'm a wife, list. I'm a sister, list. I'm an auntie, list. I'm a grandmother, list. Okay, then you've got to list in-laws. I'm an in-law. I'm an I'm an outlaw. I'm an all-law. Okay, so up to you. We've got a couple of minutes just to say who would like to say anything, and what was something you learned and got out of the session today. I'd appreciate that. So just unmute yourself, or put your hand up, and or type in the comments and share with us what it is that you got out of this session this evening.
I can tell you all one boundary that Michelle has got. Do not phone me before 9 o'clock.
In the morning. Absolutely. George knows too. He WhatsApps me, are you awake yet? Or can I talk to you now? So George even knows. And it's a good boundary. George has been laughing there. It's the truth. Yeah, it's my protection time, because I'm not a nice person in the morning. So I know that, so I'm protecting you. Otherwise, I'm going to be your toxic person. Awesome. What else did you learn, Wilma?
That it's going to be a moorse hard task.
It is, isn't it?
And that I must admit, although I think one almost needs to submit to this.
Yeah,
because you don't do that, you're going to follow your own advice, which is very oft not the right thing to do.
yes.
You need an outside person who's got perspective when you have lost your perspective.
100%. 100%. And that's why I say I don't need to know who the person is, just need to know the circumstances around it, because the question I'm going to be asking is, so what role do you play? And that's why I say, when you choose that person, you need to go and answer those questions. You've got to go and do the create the state and say, okay, fine, this is how we're going to maintain. Because if you don't process that, that toxic person, because remember, we are, as much as that toxic person is toxic in our lives, we're enabling them to be toxic because we're taking on their crap.
Yeah,
that's the scary part.
Yeah, the thing is, having done it for so long, it takes what, 23 days to form a habit.
Correct.
And how long to get out of it? So you need somebody from outside.
You do.
Absolutely. But again,
100%.
admitting to the fact that it is already a good start to a journey.
100%. And you've got to ask yourself that question: is this relationship the one I need to work with? Do I want it resolved, or do I just need to make a decision on how do I separate without saying anything and just move away? And what boundary do I put in place when that happens? So the one person that I talk about that I have to see, that really exhausts me because they're absolutely criticized and know everything better, is so exhausting. So I will greet them civilly, but I will go and do something away from where they are. So it's obviously clearly a family member. So I will go and do coloring with the grandkids or something, whatever it might be, because I personally can't deal with that. And if I say something, it's going to cause more ructions than it's worth actually saying. So it's better for me with that person to put my, as you said just now, the coping mechanism in place and make sure that sorts it out. Okay, there's our 9 o'clock. Please, anybody else want to say anything? Or type in, thank you, George. Yes, it's really worth the watch. Okay. Yeah, it's really, mind you probably don't have any toxic people in your life, George. Anybody else want to just type in, say anything? What was one thing that you got out of this? Yes, Lothar, hi.
Hi. I think the coping mechanism of just shying away, just saying what the fuck, and walking out of the life, if in any way possible, has been a nice recipe for success of not facing the BS. And
Yeah.
that's not very lekker. So yeah, confronting. And the best thing is, we keep saying, when there is this enemy, when there is this toxic person, it's so nice to point the finger.
Yeah.
But then how many fingers are pointing back at me? I mentioned this last week.
Yes.
Or even the thumb up. So I think the 12 AA program, the
Yes.
Anonymous, is a great step with first admitting and then going through the stages. Yeah, it's not easy, I can tell you that.
No, it's not. And Lothar, when it's the hardest is when there's, let's say, for example, a husband and wife get divorced. Now you don't want to see each other, so you want to just say, well, bugger off, I'm not interested. But now there's kids involved. So how does one deal with all of this? Because the ex is going to be toxic, because their goal is to make sure you're not happy. That's like kind of like number one goal. Now you've got children. Now, how do you make sure that the relationship is, and this is why I say you've really got to write it down and say to yourself, hold on a second, is this relationship worth it? So I had a toxic leader, and I go, really toxic leader. And I just made a decision, you know what, I can't do this anymore. I'm not even going to talk. I tried to talk, but they were so manipulative and so dominating. I just thought, you know what, for me to do all of this exercise for them not to be even considerate because they're a boundary violator on steroids, I just walked away. I just thought, you know what, that's one of those that you just say, and unfortunately, it damages the relationship when you walk away. But you've got to make that decision. Is that relationship worth it? And so there's some of them we just have to close the door, chuff, chuff, da follow off, and move on. Awesome.
And do you know the problem with that is? Karma knows our address.
100%.
And if I run away in this lifetime, hello, baby, next lifetime, whether I believe in it or not. But karma knows our address.
Absolutely. As they say, I love that picture of the two Alsatians, and the quote underneath says, karma is a bitch, and there's a big sign that says around her, I'm karma, I bite. So I love that one. George, you want to say something? You good? Awesome, guys. Super. Sonia, anything you're happy with? So please just let me know if you're game, but you need to go do your list first. Go check who it is that you want to have a look, recheck this out and say, I'm willing to give it a bash, and let's work it through. Okay, cool. She started a list. Also, it's a long list. You'll be so surprised at how long the list is. You really will be. Yeah. But it helps you understand that when you interact with that person, this is how I'm going to be, because I'm not going to receive any. I'm going to remember, I'm protecting my heart first. And if I protect my heart, then I'm a nice person. If I'm a nice person, I can be nice to you. Okay. Awesome. Thank you, guys. Thanks for joining us. And look forward to, I'll send you the recording this evening. Okay. Take care. Cheers, cheers.
Yeah. Thank you, Michelle, as always.
Pleasure.